So it might have been a long and relaxing weekend for most of you, but Congressman Anthony Weiner cannot say the same, as he fended off accusations of infidelity following a fake Twitter account flap. He said it was hacked, actually. That's just one of the topics we're going to be covering with our insiders. They are veterans of Albany politics who join us every week. Joining us tonight are Dave Catalfamo, the former communications director to ex-Governor George Pataki. He's now a partner at Capital Public Strategies. We also have Bruce Jory with us. He has served as a senior advisor to 2 Democratic governors. Now he's working at Corning Place Consulting. He's also an adjunct professor at UAlbany. Gentlemen, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to start with Dave. Dave, you can go ahead and do a little punching, a little partisan punching, if you will. No, seriously, this is actually, there are some serious implications here, but there's just some pieces of this story that are just too bizarre. Basically, in a nutshell, Congressman Anthony Weiner, very outspoken, uses social media, particularly Twitter, a lot. He is very skewering with Twitter. There was a lewd photo that was sent from his Twitter account to a co-ed who was not his wife. And he says that his account was hacked, and now he has his hackles up in a big, big way.
Right.
Is he handling this the way that he ought to?
Well, first I can say that I find most of the congressman's Twitter feeds offensive from the point of view that, I mean, his liberal ramblings about issues in Congress in Washington are typically put me off. But, you know, thus far I'd say no, he actually hasn't handled this well. He seemed to be turning it into a bigger story than it might have been. Clearly, he would seem as though he wasn't hacked, and if it was a prank, then it's obviously a prank on him from the point of view that it's caused him great embarrassment, and having to go out there and explain himself on an issue that is a total distraction, I'm sure, to himself and his family and his colleagues. Yeah,
you know, when you mention his family, he happens to be married to someone who's pretty high profile.
Right.
She is a veteran aide to Hillary Clinton. I mean, this thing just has circles within circles within circles. Bruce, do you want to weigh in here? I mean, look, he put out a statement saying he's retained an attorney, yet he hasn't gone to the cops. He keeps saying that this is a distraction. That was Dave's word. The congressman is using it too. But he's getting awfully defensive.
Yeah, I would agree with you until I just saw this press conference, or impromptu press conference he had on CNN. I thought this was much ado about nothing, and he probably had been the victim of a prank, and it was embarrassing, but, you know, there was nothing to it. I hope that's still the case. But the more you have to explain without being able to give to point out that you're correct and that you have been the victim of a prank, you tend to have a problem. But I prefer to take him at his word until his word is disproved.
Whoever is giving him the advice that he needs to stonewall this and say that he's done answering questions and explaining what happened, mostly because of, in fact, his own actions, where the story has changed somewhat over the last 36 hours, 24 hours, is giving him the wrong advice. I mean, he needs to come clean on it and get an explanation that works and that people believe, and be able to move on from the issue, because people aren't going to move on the more he tries to throw up a...
Yeah, you know, a couple of things that could be said here. I mean, Dave, you talked about the partisan nature of his tweets. He is very... I don't know how to say it. Very skewering in his tweets, I think was the word that I used, but very partisan. It's true. For example, after this whole situation broke on Twitter, it came at a time when he was actually tweeting personal stuff about watching a hockey game. It was amidst these tweets about a hockey game that this thing just popped up. It was immediately erased. The woman's Facebook page was erased. All of his images were erased from his account from which the image was sent in question was sent. It was a picture of a man's underwear. Let's not get too graphic. But,
right.
But you know, the thing is that he then subsequently got a lot of Twitter followers, and he used this thing called a hashtag to say that he was now rivaling Michelle Bachmann, the congresswoman who might run for president, and he labeled that scrappy chasing crazy. Okay,
right.
that's what you're talking about. Those kind of partisan suggestions.
And let me just add. I mean, here's a guy who's raised $4 million to run for mayor of the city of New York in 2013.
He's a serious guy. Sure.
He was a serious candidate. He had a good run for mayor in 2005, where he finished just behind Freddie Ferrer, or in second place, narrowly. You know, Ferrer only made precluded a runoff, which is the rule there. If you get 40% by the narrowest of margins. He had a lot going for him, and what he needed to do was to present his gravitas, and did he have the right temperament, and so he has so much going for him. But this discussion takes away from that, and this is someone who Twitter and tweeting seems to work for Sarah Palin. I'm not sure it was working for Anthony Weiner.
Yeah, interesting. You know, I can't help but notice, Bruce, that you're using some past tense language there when discussing.
No, that's just my garbled syntax. I'm not. Please don't read anything into that. But he does need to get the truth out to get this story behind him. If he is the front page of the tabloids in New York City for 2 or 3 days in a row, that can be problematic. But as I said before, I prefer to take him at his word. So, and let's hope that's not the wrong interpretation.
You know, or Bruce, you know, or he could quit Congress and get a TV show. I mean, so
hey,
there's plenty of opportunities out there.
Okay, wait a minute. I just want everyone to know I was not tweeting prior to getting this TV show. Okay, just saying. But before we leave this particular topic, and I do want to talk about Sarah Palin, can we just mention briefly the dangers of tweeting? I mean, you've got people out there and it's great because, you know, I think that Anthony Weiner has a lot of followers, and it's a great way to sort of jump over your handlers and speak directly to your constituents, and yet it can really come back to bite you.
Yeah, it's really somewhat the opposite sort of traditional communications, and it's very much the opposite of what we have in the Capitol right now with Governor Cuomo. Is very strict and controlled with his messaging. Anthony Weiner, couldn't be more of the opposite of that. And in some ways, it's refreshing from the point of view that you get an unfiltered view, and there's a certain amount of authenticity with it. And while I don't enjoy the content of the congressman's tweets, I think that they are authentic and that they're him.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for that.
We were just looking very briefly there at some footage of Sarah Palin's tour. She's taking a bus tour up into our neck of the woods, actually. She's going to be in New York. She's going to be having dinner with Donald Trump this evening. And then subsequently she'll be tomorrow visiting the Statue of Liberty at Ellis Island. Look, as a member of the press, I've got to say that she is infuriating the media, and I'm sure that her followers adore that, because she is not giving any interviews other than to Fox. Now, what do you guys make of this? Anybody want to kick this one off?
Let me jump in. She had hit a real rough patch after the tragedy in Tucson with Gabrielle Giffords, when she used the term blood libel, and there was another example of not being able to explain why she used a reference that had been so part and parcel of anti-Semitism in the past, though apparently she used it unwittingly. But in any event, she came off looking bad. Her employers at Fox were uncomfortable with the way she was going. Her polling data plunged. But then the Republican field, more candidates were pulling out than pulling in. And here is a golden opportunity for her with this bus tour to refurbish the Palin brand. And one suspects, given what she hasn't done, create a campaign infrastructure, develop serious positions on tough issues, that she probably is replenishing the brand. She'll probably make a lot of money on it, but one still questions whether she is actually going to run for president.
Yeah, you know, and meanwhile, then again, Congresswoman Bachmann, again, you're talking about somebody who is getting quite a lot of attention. Another good-looking woman who has Tea Party support, you know, talking about maybe running and actually doing exactly what you said Sarah Palin was not doing, Bruce, which is to say hiring people, a pollster, I believe, setting up some infrastructure in Iowa. Dave, you've got a little bit of skin in this particular game, maybe. I'm not so sure. But what do you make of this? Is she running, or is it just a big joke?
I think if she were running for celebrity-in-chief, she'd probably have a good shot at it. The fact of the matter is, I think if Sarah Palin were to run for president, she'd do for the National Republican Party what Carl Palladino did for the state Republican Party. She was an effective governor. There's a lot of things I like about Sarah Palin, and I think that she's very savvy with respect to the way that she markets herself, and that her brand, as Bruce said, is definitely going to be boosted from her tour. But ultimately, I don't think that she's the right person to run for president. Notwithstanding what Governor Pataki does or anybody else does, she just isn't the right person to run at this time.
Yeah, it is interesting what she's doing with the media, because you did, I think, Bruce, you made, or no, actually, I think it was you, pardon me, Dave, who made a reference to what's going on at the Capitol. I mean, media control, the control of the message. Basically, one way that you do that is to just not talk to reporters or talk to a reporter of your own particular selection. We are seeing that a lot also with Governor Cuomo. He is masterfully managing his message, and it makes other people upset. It has a very limited trickle of information, which leads to a lot of speculation. And from a communication standpoint, Dave, if you want to take this one and then Bruce weigh in, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because you've got a vacuum to fill with a lot of angry people filling it.
I think it works so long as you're successful. And then when it runs out, there's a backlash. I mean, we saw it with President Bush. You know, when he ran his first term into a second term and really had very much a similar sort of strategy, but then when things started to go wrong, there wasn't a reservoir of goodwill, there wasn't the relationships there to help kind of get through rough patches, and that's the real danger of it, is that it creates a gulf that does get filled, often in a negative way.
I would agree, except that with the presidency in our system has turned into a very personal choice, and it is almost impossible to stonewall the media, because people demand that they know you and feel comfortable with you. And so if she's running for president, this is not a good way to do it, especially since when she did sit down with Katie Couric when she was running for vice president in the fall campaign, the result was disastrous. So if she is going to run for president, she's going to have to implicitly rebut that performance by showing she's capable of it. But I think I think that she's refurbishing the brand. She'll make a lot of money on it. She'll get a lot of publicity, but ultimately she will not be in the presidential race. I think David's right.
Let's bring it down to Albany before we run out of time. You know, we are focused today here at Capitol Tonight on the question of the same-sex marriage bill.
Yep.
We are not quite certain at this point what's going to happen. 10 working days left in the legislative session, although the caveat is, of course, the governor could bring the legislature back anytime he felt like it if he thought he had a deal. So will the governor, Bruce, get this particular piece, this controversial thing that he's pushing to try and get through the Senate? And if he doesn't, what kind of price will he pay, if any at all?
I don't think the price will be on him, especially if they are able to get 28 or 29 Democratic votes to say, or I'm sorry, 28 or 29 Democratic senators to say we're for gay marriage. I think that then the issue will be, can the Republicans produce any votes? I think it's very fluid. I think you're right. I think that issue is out there. I think ethics reform is a very big issue. I think dotting the I's and crossing the T's on the property tax cap and rent regulation are out there. But I think the sleeper issue that may come out is SUNY. I think there's more progress behind the scenes. It won't look just like SUNY asked. I doubt you'll see it called differential tuition. But I think you will see a recognition by the legislature that they need to do something to help SUNY get through these awfully tough budgets. So if I was looking for a sleeper issue, I'd look at the SUNY issue.
Interesting, interesting. Dave, do you think, I mean, look, I could see a way where the governor would walk away from ethics reform, not saying that he will, just saying that he could. If the legislature doesn't give him what he wants, he could say, that's not sufficient. I need something real, I need something strong, and I'm not going to take half a loaf. I could see that happening. The tax cap, anyone's guess at this point. Gay marriage, possible, 50-50?
I don't think so. I don't think so on either ethics or on marriage equality. On ethics, I'm with you, and I think that the governor would be smart not to take a half loaf, because I think that ultimately it doesn't get the job done and allows everybody to glide a few years on saying that they did disclosure reform that is not really meaningful. On marriage equality, I just think that there's too many other bigger issues that are out there. Bruce mentioned a few of them. Obviously, the property tax cap, rent regulation, hydrofracking is a huge issue. There is a host of economic issues that matter to people making a livelihood, paying their taxes, making a living, and putting their kids through school. So I think that those are the issues that are probably going to get more attention in the last 10 days than these other.
If I had to guess, Liz, I think at the end, I think there's a strong chance that marriage equality will pass. On ethics, I agree with both of you. It's better not to compromise too much. But boy, oh boy, if the governor puts forward or follows through on his, he called it a promise, not a threat, to appoint a Moreland Act commission to investigate public corruption and ethics issues. If they don't pass ethics reform, that could create a whole new dynamic with the legislature.
Well, that would certainly sour the relationship with the legislature and cause it a lot of problems with respect to getting other things done.
I would agree, and that's why at the end of the day, I think the public pressure that we'll have a productive end to session, but I prefer to be optimistic at this point.
Okay, well, we will leave it at that. I mean, certainly I wouldn't say change the dynamic. I'd say war.
Yeah,
I'd say it would be out-and-out war, but we shall see, because 10 days, it's an eternity in Albany, as we know. Dave Catalfamo, thank you very much.
Thanks, Liz.
Bruce Story, thanks for being with us. We'll be seeing you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.